This is One Fat Boy, and here are my NBA game predictions for March 5th of 2022. Tonight there's 6 games. I'll be going over the spreads and over-unders for each of them. For the Kings at the Mavericks, we'll go with the Mavericks minus 7.5. I think between Luka Doncic just being probably the best player on the floor, and also Dallas having one of the best defenses, and a competent offense, that should be more than enough to beat the Kings. So for sure, lean towards Dallas winning. And then, especially if Dallas gets going from the field, like offensively in the first half, and they're able to get like a solid 6 minutes of defense where the Kings struggle to score in the first half, Dallas should be able to hold that for the second half of the game and cruise to a 7.5 spread. But for sure, Dallas should win. We'll be going over 221 as I expect Dallas to really cook on the offensive end, as the Kings defense is not what they're really known for, that's for sure. And that the Kings, they'll of course get their points, but they'll have to work harder for them. But I think the Mavericks will have a higher output of scoring than usual. For the Spurs at the Hornets, so I expect this game to be full-on shootout, as both teams can put up a lot of points, and I don't see any reasons why that any team should struggle offensively. Like, the only thing that will stop the game is timeouts, as that's probably the only way to play defense against these two. But overall, I think Charlotte should pull away with this game. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs won't win this either, so it probably won't be a game I'd be betting the spread on. But if I had to lean towards one of the teams winning, I'd lean towards Charlotte, because they're also playing at home, and they're still trying to fight for a playoff spot. So I'll give us edge towards the Hornets. And there should be a lot of scoring in this game, like no reason for there not to be. So I'll be going over 241.5, as that's the current spread on FanDuel. So I'll be leaning towards an over for this game. Maybe just drop it down like a couple points, but I think both teams scoring over 120 is reasonable, or having one team 130s, one team 110, that's also reasonable, but I think 240 should be able to be covered. For Portland at Minnesota, going with Portland plus 13. This is mostly due to the fact that Minnesota played last night, even though it was a blowout, so their starters weren't pushed excessively. They still have to travel and play 2 games in 2 nights, so let's lean towards Portland being within 13 points, but I don't expect them to win. Especially if Minnesota can't figure out how to slow down Simons, or if Simon keeps it going all game. That's another little tip towards Portland being 13.5, but I think in general, team-wise, both sides, Portland should be within 13 points. I will be going over 232.5, as I think Minnesota, they'll be able to score, no problem. Like, Portland's defense is not going to slow down Minnesota, but I think Portland's offense will keep them in with that 13-point spread. But there's just more signs just pointing towards Minnesota winning the game in general. So bet on that, and just bet more on players for Minnesota in general for winning, and expect a high-scoring game. For Orlando at Memphis, we're going with Memphis minus 15.5. Orlando played last night. Now they have to travel to Memphis and play one of the top teams in the West, and that's going to be a tough feat for Orlando. It's like they got their 1 win last night. I think having 2 wins in a row in 2 games, that's too much for Orlando to enjoy, and Memphis is going to stop that. I think Memphis, they can play some solid defense, going to out-hustle the Magic, as they do a lot of teams, and Memphis also puts up a lot of points, so that's a recipe for them to win by a lot. So there should be no excuse for Memphis to lose this game at all, especially if Morant is able to get his teammates involved and get his points. Memphis has an easy win. We'll be going over 224.5, as Memphis should be able to score a lot. And then Orlando, don't expect too much of them. Expect a lot of the scoring, heavy lifting to come from Memphis. If Orlando can get 100 points, I really do expect Memphis to be above 120. So if you think Orlando can get 100 to 105 points, lean towards an over. For the Sixers at the Heat, so normally I'd lean towards the Sixers, but with the Sixers playing last night, I'll have to lean towards Miami. And we saw that Miami can hang with Milwaukee within 1 point. And I don't expect anything different against the Sixers, as Miami, a little more consistent defensively, and they can get offensive schemes, get certain players involved to be a little more consistent offensively. And then Philadelphia, they have to travel to Miami, play the second game of a back-to-back. So just little points like that just leans towards Miami winning this, but obviously can't count out like Joel Embiid or James Harden. So personally, I won't bet the spread, as this should just be like a close game in general, unless you just really have faith in one of these teams. I will expect a more defensive game overall, as Philadelphia, I'm sure, would like to play a slower game, and Miami is not known for pushing the ball this season, and they're playing more defensively too, as that's how they've been winning their games all season. So I'll be leaning towards an under 221.5. For Golden State at the Lakers, you have Golden State -6. Well, obviously the Lakers, they just have been choking all their games as of late. They're 2-8 in their last 10. I think Golden State should be able to handle the Lakers no problem. Just the way Golden State plays, more team-oriented, unlike the Lakers. Team defense, team offense, unlike the Lakers. So just playing as a team, I think, is more advantageous than what the Lakers have been doing. I don't think the Lakers, how old they are, as Charles Barkley says, like, you need the young players. Like, the young players can play the whole game. The old players can't play more than like 2-3 quarters of the game. They're just too old for that. They don't have the energy. Golden State has a good mix, as they've been really relying on their young players. So just being able to play the full 4 quarters at high energy, it's going to be too much for the Lakers. So I'll be leaning towards Golden State winning and covering. And I think Warriors defense will be able to slow down the Lakers. So be leaning towards an under 224.5. But if I were to go over, I'd probably put like over 216. So I really expect this game to be like add up to around 220. So you can go from there for your over-under. Thank you for watching. As always, have fun betting, have fun watching sports, as that's the most important part. And once again, thanks for watching.